Yeah, because it's win or get fired, right? Jed Hoyer knows that, right? Carter Hawkins knows that.
Let's hit your article and one or two players from 7 former day one MLB draft picks showing signs of a breakthrough early this season. What do you think?
Yeah, I think one of the things that happens in baseball is you get these top draft picks and they get to the big leagues and they struggle their first year, maybe they struggle their second year, and then we always have people that give up on them, media, fans, baseball people, instead of really understanding patience. It's not that easy. Sure, there's the Bryce Harpers and the Mike Trouts that perform pretty well quickly, but even guys like Aaron Judge and Trout didn't hit their first cup of coffee in the major leagues. And so, I just wrote the article just to remind people that, these were 7 names that people weren't really talking about, that people were giving up. And it's great to see some of these guys off to great starts. I mean, let's start with Kyron Paris of the Los Angeles Angels. This is a guy that was a second-round pick, extremely athletic, struggled when he came to the big leagues, hit under the Mendoza level. But this year, he moved back in the batter's box 5 inches. He opened up his stance, sees the ball better, uses his core better, very athletic, quick twitch muscles. He's leading the American League in WAR right now with 5 homers and 5 steals and a 1.5 WAR. It's just fun to see that. And then take Tyler Soderstrom of the Athletics. How many people had him leading the league in home runs right now with 8? How many people? Like, not a lot, right? I remember 2023 when he had 160. Even I wasn't a believer on what I was seeing. And yet David Force, the GM, and Billy Beane, one of the owners, kept telling me, don't worry about him. He's going to be 30, 100. Be patient with him. He'll eventually get there. And, it looks like he's finally going to get there this year. And then there's Spencer Torkelson of the Tigers, who the front office said, you lost the first base job in the offseason. Cole Keith is going to play first. Torres is going to play second. And you have to make the team. There's no guarantee you're even going to make the team. And so it was a wake-up call for him, but he made adjustments, right? He's now really staying on his backside extremely well. He's just dropping the bat head like he did at Arizona State when he broke the home run record. And he looks like the guy that was drafted that we all thought would hit 30 and drive in 100. But I guess my point is a lot of these guys get taken in the first or second round. They struggle their first couple of years. People give up on them. And my point is, don't give up on them. Help them. Give them time. There's a reason why our algorithms say the prime years for a baseball player is 24 to 30.
You're talking about guys that struggled to begin with. We were just talking about Matt Shaw with the Cubs. He got sent to AAA. I've said he's got a ton of movement. He's got to clean some of it up to be a productive big league hitter. This isn't the end for Matt Shaw, right? Like, he can go down, make some adjustments. He'll be back. And I think that's one of the things you just talked about is just because guys struggle early doesn't mean just to write them off automatically. Guys get second chances, and when they do, they just have to cash in on them.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack kind of here with Shaw, like an onion, right? So at Maryland, he was short, quick to the ball, right? Reminded me a little bit of how Jose Altuve was coming up, right? Just dropped the barrel head, contact, surprising power for the size. Looks like he can hit eventually 25 homers in the big leagues. And a couple things happened here. Number one, for him to make the team out of spring training, obviously it was a mistake because I don't like setting a guy out after 20 games of failure. I don't think it's fair. What was he hitting? 170, 20 games, and you're gone. I don't like that. I saw the Cardinals do it with Jordan Walker in 2023 and kind of ruined him for a couple of years. We got big league stars like Marcus Semien hitting 117, Yainer Diaz hitting 120, another top rookie, Dylan Cruz, hitting 120. Like, I don't care what you do the first 20 games because these young rookies, they have never faced this kind of pitching in their life. And, 9 innings of it every single night. They've never seen it. So you're going to have to adjust, but give them time. 20 games isn't enough. So either you made him make the team before he should have, or you sent him out too quick, in my opinion. But to your point, AJ, and I agree with this completely, he's got a lot going on preliminary. And because he's got so much going on, there is no way he's going to be able to time major league fastballs, major league breaking balls, change up, and the differential that he's going to see pitch to pitch with all that going on. He needs to go back and be like he was a few years ago, just short, compact, quick to the ball. And when he does that, he's going to be really good. Look, he's not going to be a great defender, but he'll be able to make the routine plays. And I do think he's going to hit. I just think it's really disappointing that you send a rookie out after only 20 games. I just don't like that idea.
Hey, JB, I'm going to stay on the Cubs with you for a moment because that wasn't the only move they made. The other ones won't attract as much attention, but do you get a sense that the Cubs are going to operate differently because this front office needs to get this team into the playoffs? And if we can even push that forward to the trade deadline, it's never too early to talk about it. Maybe the Cubs get very involved in a Sandy Alcantara sweepstakes if he gets the command in gear. And obviously they just lost Justin Steele as well. So what do you think about this front office telling us we're in win now mode at all costs?
Yeah, because it's win or get fired, right? Jed Hoyer knows that, right? Carter Hawkins knows that. It's win or get fired. That's why they made the Tucker deal. You don't make the Kyle Tucker trade if you think you're going to be there long term. You do not give up 6 years of Cam Smith for what appears to be 1 year of Kyle Tucker. So you have to do everything you can to win right now. And again, I don't think you send Matt Shaw down if you don't feel that sense of urgency from ownership. You haven't been extended. Your contracts are up. You feel the pressure. And by the way, I picked the Cubs to win this division. So I think they're going to be able to keep their jobs. But I do think when you see moves like they're making this quickly out of the gate when they don't need to, I think it tells you the sense of urgency as the Tucker deal did. I also think it's extremely important this front office does everything they can to try to sign Kyle Tucker as soon as possible and not let him get to free agency. Because if you let him get to free agency and lose him after trading Cam Smith to get him, that's one of those deals you'll regret the rest of your career.
How much of this urgency is coming from, let's say, Craig Counsell's urgency, where the managers, how many managers get off to that bad start and they feel like they're in the hot seat? Because over the last 5 years, we've kind of seen it's been rare where there's not too many in-season manager changes. So maybe they're not as a hot seat as we think they are. But overall, there seems to be some pressure when your manager might be on the same hot seat that you are as a player a little bit.
Yeah, and this is different in Chicago because Craig Counsell is not on the hot seat. His job, he's getting paid $8 million a year. He's fine. He's considered one of the best managers in baseball. He's going nowhere. He was very critical indirectly on the front office at the end of last year, just saying we have a long way to go before we're a legitimate postseason team. And the front office reacted because their job's on the line. But Counsell's signed beyond this year. Jed Hoyer is not. And, when you have an executive like Jed Hoyer who doesn't have any job security after this year from the owner, look, and as a front office executive, you know where you stand. And when you're in a division in the NL Central where it's winnable, it's not a great division, you better win. So they're going to do everything they can to win. And sure, if Sandy Alcantara is traded in July, if he's able to give 10, 12 great starts and prove to teams that he's going to be the pitcher that he was when he won the Cy Young Award, I absolutely believe the Chicago Cubs will be in that race to get Alcantara, like everybody else will, by the way.
I agree. Counsell might not have been my best example, but would you say, and I'm not even happy that we have to talk about this 20 games into the season, but across the league, what managers would you say need to win this year? What managers are on the hot seat if their teams just don't come out the gates the right way like they might be? Yeah,
that's a great question. I think people are going to give the obvious, Bud Black in Colorado, how many years are you going to finish in last place before you make a managerial change? And of course, he's one of the most popular people in baseball. He's such a great guy, but that's going to be an obvious name. Carlos Marmol Oli Marmol in St. Louis, of course, is going to be in that list because Chaim Bloom is going to take over. And when you take over a team, normally you want your own guy in that spot. So I think he's on the hot seat, but I'm not sure, he can win anyway with that team, but I think it's more about who's coming in. I think we have a chance that, a Bruce Bochy or a Brian Snitker retire. I don't think they're on the hot seat, but I think there's a chance that they walk away at the end of this year. I think that's a real possibility, but I'm going to go kind of out on a limb and give you a couple that I think have to win. So I think the hot seat or the ones that should move the needle a little bit, I think Brandon Hyde in Baltimore and Schneider in Toronto are the two guys that have to win. I think they've got to take their teams to the playoffs or I don't think they'll have their jobs. And if they're out of it in June or July and all of a sudden they're dumping it, I think either one of those guys could be the first manager fired in season.
More in a minute, but first, a quick word from our sponsor of this video. FT fam, you got to check out HelloFresh. I know AJ's favorite part of HelloFresh. They've got the 15-minute meals, 3 steps, and you've got your dinner.
I love it. It comes fresh to your house. Mm-hmm. It's pre-packaged with all the ingredients in almost a brown bag. Comes with all the instructions. And what I like most about it is some people say, I don't like to cook. I like to actually chop the ingredients, cook them up. That way it makes it feel like, even though it was prepackaged, you feel like you're doing something, and it's so fresh. Fresh vegetables, fresh meat, high quality, comes with all the sauces, comes with all the spices you need.
Yes, and if you're like, hey, you guys talk about Green Chef, that's right. They're in the same fam. Both bring different strengths to the table. So check out HelloFresh, of course, and get yourself up to 10 free meals and a free high protein item for life at HelloFresh.com/FT10FM. One item per box with active subscription. Free meals applied as discount on first box. New subscribers only, varies by plan. That's up to 10 free HelloFresh meals. Just go to HelloFresh.com/FT10FM. And now back to the video.
I think Hyde is a little more surprising than Schneider.
Yeah.
In those two names. You did mention Bud Black in Colorado, and he's been there, 10 years? I'm not even exactly sure. He's been there a long time. But if you were the GM, the president of baseball ops in Colorado, what do you do? What do you do? Because it's like the ownership won't give us money to go out and get guys. When we go out and sign Chris Bryant, he can't play because he always seems to be hurt. But yet we don't. Well, we draw almost 3 million fans every year, so the owners are happy because they're making their money. If you're in charge there, what's your path to success in a really tough division?
Yeah, so if I'm in charge there, then you're telling me I'm the owner. So if I'm the owner, I'm going to make a change at president, GM, manager, and I'm going to completely clean house. And I am going to absolutely 100% rebuild that organization from the bottom up. And, look, what they've decided to do in that organization, and I love Bill Schmidt, the GM. I think he's a great baseball man and a great scout. That's his best role, in my opinion. He's a good talent evaluator of amateur players. But this team is not keeping up with every other team in baseball. They don't play in the trade market significantly ever. They don't play in the big free agent market ever. They're all about homegrown, and they over-evaluate their own prospects. So instead of trading prospects when their value is high in the industry, they hold on to them until the prospects no longer carry their value. They're not run properly. They have a very shallow front office. They're well behind in a lot of areas like analytics and technology. And that's a problem. And look, I love Bud Black, and I would keep him in the organization, in some kind of role. But I think I'd probably go with a younger, more development-oriented, leadership group there, and change the way they do business completely, because they're just far behind in the times.
Jim, I've said this on the show repeatedly. They need to do something crazy. They need to go full raise and shift and go Joe Madden or openers or just try something, because everything they've tried for years hasn't worked. I know they made the surprise run to the World Series in, 2007, when they won like 25 of 26 games to get to the World Series. But other than that, and when they had the Blake Street Bombers, but other than that, it has not been a long-term success of anything. And they've had some really good players go through there. So at some point, you got to try something crazy. I don't know what it is, whether you just go all mash, like the Indians did back in the day with Manny and Tomey and all those guys, and the Blake Street Bombers did back when they first started. I don't know, but you got to do something different, because what they're doing now ain't working.
Yeah, I think you got to go back in history and say what did work, when you mentioned them winning. And it was the Blake Street Bombers, right? It was a lineup that just pounded and took advantage of Coors Field. I mean, we all understand it's the best offensive stadium to play 81 games. So why don't you build your team around taking advantage of those 81 games and try to win 60 or 70 of those 81 games so you can play 500 on the road and be in the postseason. You have to do things differently, but you can't get too far behind your opponents in the front office right now. With artificial intelligence seeping in, the analytics and technology these teams have, I mean, we're seeing really smart executives from 5 years ago falling behind in 2025. Executives that I really respect, that really were ahead of the game in terms of analytics 5 years ago, and all of a sudden they fell behind some of the best front offices in baseball. And you've got to be really careful right now to not get too far behind, and Colorado's way behind.
Yep. I'm with you. All right. So this one had front office implications around baseball. We haven't had you on since, and you put this out there in an article and on Twitter. Let's get some video evidence here from you as well on Vladdy Jr.'s extension. So you said, I'm really happy for Vladdy, the Blue Jays and MLB players, starting with Kyle Tucker. But for MLB teams, This extension is disastrous and will change the market for star players forever. Why?
Yeah, so let's start with, because everyone's going to point to Shohei Ohtani's $700 million, but if you look at the net present value of that deal, it was between 460 and 480, depending upon what accounting firm you want to believe in. 460 to 480, that's all it was, and we're talking about the best player on the planet. And then everyone's going to point to Juan Soto's 765, but I'll argue that's a generational talent. I'll argue that's the Ted Williams of this era. And I'll also argue that was the Yankees and Mets doing crazy things. Why? Because they can. And I'm going to throw those two out. I just am. And so then I'm going to look at the rest of the market of players similar to Guerrero, right? So I am going to look at Rafael Devers. I'm going to look at Corey Seager, Manny Machado, Fernando Tatis Jr., Mookie Betts, Aaron Judge. All of those guys were between 300 and 365. All of them. That's where they were. Trey Turner was 300. I can give you name after name. All of them were in that little box. And now you just took that box and you put it at 500 million. You just put it at 500. I can't argue now. I cannot argue now. I can't sit there and tell Kyle Tucker that, no, you need to be paid where Betts and Judge were paid. You need to be paid where Machado. No. Guerrero's there now, right? We have Soto. We have Ohtani. He's not going to ask to be paid more than them. But he's going to ask to get more than Guerrero, and he's going to get it. He's now going to be between 500 and 600. So, look, this signing, I'm happy for players. I am. I'm happy for Vladdy. I love Vladdy, right? I think it's great. I'm happy for him. But for the 29 other clubs that are trying to compete, and especially small to middle markets, to know that if I have to sign a star in free agency that's 26 to 28 years old, that I'm going to have to pay now 500 to 600 million, twice as much as Bryce Harper and Manny Machado and Corey Seager and Trey Turner are getting? Oh, yeah.
That's funny. And by the way, I said Vladdy played him perfectly. Vladdy played that unbelievable, and his agents deserve a ton of credit because they played him so good, and they got an unbelievable deal, and one that I'm still kind of like, wow, I can't believe he got it. You mentioned a guy in there, though, Juan Soto. You called the Ted Williams of his time. He's already made quotes about, I don't have Aaron Judge hitting behind me. I'm not going to, wait, what? What? You got Pete Alonso who's raking behind you. He's on fire. What do you want? You're supposed to be. You just said Ted Williams of your generation. Heck, Barry Bonds didn't care who was hitting in front of him or behind him. He just walked more. But I don't know. I think it's a little early for Juan Soto to already be saying, oh, man, I don't have Aaron Judge already.
Well, I think if you signed Soto, you shouldn't be expecting the Soto we saw last year with the Yankees, right? With the Yankee Stadium in right field and Judge hitting behind you. I think you're getting the Juan Soto that we saw in Washington win a World Series. I think you're getting the Soto we saw in San Diego. That's the player you're paying for. You know, he's off to a little bit of a slow start, but a slow start for him is 39% on base percentage and on pace for 27 homers. Yeah, it's a bad start for him. But, I'm expecting, I don't know about you, I'm expecting 420 on base and 35 homers. I'm not expecting 44 homers. And yeah, when Judge is hitting behind you, the best hitter in the American League, I'm going to pitch to you more than I'm going to pitch to you if Alonso's there. Now, Alonso's going to do damage, and right now, yeah, he's the best hitter in the National League, right? And I think he's going to hit 40 and drive at 120 because he's going to benefit from having Lindor and Soto in front of him. But sure, with Juan, you just got $765 million, and Judge isn't behind you. Yeah, I'm going to let Alonso beat me, and I'm going to be really careful how I pitch to a $765 million player. So I think it's accurate. That being said, Juan Soto is going to hit regardless of who's hitting in front of him or behind him. He'll finish with an on-base percentage that starts with a 4. He'll end up with home runs that begins with a 3. That's just what he is, and he'll bring personality. He'll bring the Soto shuffle. He'll sign autographs. He'll have that great smile. I'll get to cover him at the All-Star game and in the postseason. So, yeah, I'm okay with it.
Why can't you expect it, though? Why can't you expect the year he had last year, Jim? Kip agrees with me, I think. Why can't you expect it? You paid him $765 million. You paid him on last year, as they say, your platform year, but then you don't expect to get those numbers? I'm thinking maybe we should expect that a little bit.
I guess it's like when I traded for Ken Griffey Jr., right? And I traded for Jr., and I thought I was getting the Jr. that he was in Seattle. And then, I got 1 year like that. And then, he had some injuries, but, I didn't get exactly that the rest of his career. And I can look at Miguel Cabrera and Albert Pujols and all these other guys, and I can give you the same storyline here. I think that he was coming off his best year, and I never expect a player to always come and be able to repeat your best year. I think it's better to look at a player's career and what he did the 4 years prior to signing him. And I think you can put that in a blender and grind it all up and then take the average numbers, and that's really what you're paying for. And I think you have to give credit to Yankee Stadium, where if you hit a pop-up to right field, it's a home run. I mean, it's going to pad your numbers. I don't care what anybody says. And if Aaron Judge is behind you, it's going to pad your numbers a little bit more. I mean, we saw it watching him play last year. And I think the reason I don't expect to repeat it is I saw how he did it last year. And I saw how pitchers, treated him with Judge behind him. They pitched to him. And I did not expect that to happen with the Mets hitting 2 behind Lindor. I did not.
StatCast Park Factor, and they like to take a few years of sample size. Citi Field is 23rd best for hitters. Yankee Stadium is 11th best for hitters.
Okay.
It's a big difference.
It's a difference. Yeah.
I don't know.
He'll be fine. We just have had this conversation for a couple of days. When you make the back of the New York Post, Jim, and you're 20 games into your Met career for some quotes about there's a topic there, right or wrong. There's a topic there because you kind of, if I played for the Yankees or the Mets, I'd kind of never want to be on the Post unless it's like I hit a walk-off home run or something. I don't ever want to have something on the backside where it's like, I don't know, and you got Heyman and all these guys and, writing about it. It's Sherman, it's like, I'd rather just hide in the shadows and do my job and be the Derek Jeter.
Yeah, if he gets on 40
I guess with Juan, it's a little different, right? Like when I interviewed him in spring training, he was really open about everything. And I kind of respect that about Juan because, he'll talk and he'll say things. And if he says the wrong thing, it's okay because he's transparent in what he's thinking and what he's feeling. And he came out there and said, look, they're pitching me different. I had the best hitter in baseball behind me and they're pitching me different. Well, they are. So is it wrong to say? I mean, sure it is with the media and the fans. I get it. I understand the criticism. You paid $765 million. Say the right thing. I like the unfiltered part of this show, right? It's not filtered, right? You say whatever you think, whatever you feel. That's kind of what I want from players too, and I want from managers. It's okay if we all tell the truth. We don't always have to be politically correct. And by the way, I've had a lot of bad publicity in my career. I've had good publicity. It's not a bad thing to be on the back page of the New York Post, even if it's negative.
Yeah, all publicity is good publicity, and mic drop on that last part too. Yeah, we want the transparency.
No, we love the transparency. I want him to talk. It's just it's just a topic though. When you say things, trust me, Jim, you're talking to the person that's had everything said about him. So I mean, I've been on every back page, front page, middle page, inside page, every page you could be on. I get it, but it's just a topic to talk about. And you being a GM. Former GM and in charge of baseball, I just wanted to get your opinion on it.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Well, it's different. If you want me to put the GM hat, my answer is a little bit different. I don't want
No, we want the truth. We want the truth.
So I know, but in this job, let's put it out there. In that job, you have to sell tickets and you have to work PR, and the fan base is extremely important. And so you always got to tell the truth, but it's okay if we say some right things as well instead of some negative comments, because sometimes the PR perspective of it makes it difficult when you're sitting in the GM or the president's or the owner's seats.
Hey everybody, be sure to like and subscribe for more content.
We're back here every weekday, all year long, so do not miss an episode.
The videos are coming in all day. Here's another video you might enjoy.
Baseball the way it should be covered.